Astral Radiance is a short few weeks away, and I think it's about time we start looking at some deck profiles. Hey everybody, Nick from 9Card TCG, and today, well, I'm listening to you. I put up a poll on Twitter, and I asked you which of the following decks would you like to see me cover first, and Hisuian Samurott won the vote by quite a large margin. I had almost half the votes, so we gotta start there, and then we'll continue to do these polls so I can get an idea of what you are most interested in seeing. And if you didn't see that poll, well, you should be following me on Twitter. And next time I'll also post it on YouTube as well because, well, I forgot to do it. Now, before we get into the actual deck list, if you haven't already, do me a favor and hit the subscribe button, leave a like and a comment. All those things tell YouTube this is a great video and other people should watch it. If you're in the market for some TCG accessories, I'm now affiliated with Dragon Shield. You can use the link in the video description to get yourself some awesome Dragon Shield matte sleeves. They're the only ones I use. You show up to regionals looking and feeling like a pro. If you use that link, I get a kickback, which means I can make more and better videos for you. Also, if you want to become a channel member and help support the channel a little bit more directly, there's a join button. You can click that and see all the different perks you get, but none of that's ever required. Just you being here is enough for me. Now, with all that said, let's hop over to the Pokegear app where we can take a look at this early Astral Radiance Hisuian Samurott deck. I want to start off by saying two things. One, link to Pokegear in the video description. It is a great website for building these kind of lists and just kind of organizing your thoughts. And also, this list is heavily inspired by JustInBasil's list that I more or less looked at for a solid reference. It's roughly what I would have come to as well, but we're going to, make some changes off of that list, and also link to JustInBasil's version in the video description as well. What up, JustInBasil? Thanks for doing the hard work for me. So let's talk about it. Hisuian Samurott V is a brand new dark type card coming in Astral Radiance, and I don't remember the exact date of Astral Radiance. I want to say it's May 27th, and if I'm wrong, there'll be some text at the bottom of the screen here saying what the actual date is, and if I'm right, well, then I don't have to do anything, so cool. Hisuian Pokemon, if you're not familiar, are the regional variants of Pokemon from Pokemon Legends Arceus, where it takes place in the Hisui region, hence Hisuian. And it's a phenomenal game. If you haven't played it and you already own a Switch or were looking to buy one, I would absolutely recommend playing it. Super, super fun, and I really hope it's direction that Pokemon kind of goes in the future, but that's not the point of today's video. The point is Hisuian Samurott is just a regional variant of Samurott, which is why it looks different, and the V isn't really anything crazy. It's a dark type, which is phenomenal in this format, and it's weak to grass, which is also pretty good in this format, considering that most dark types, or a lot of dark types, are weak to fighting, and we do not want a fighting weakness right now. Retreat cost a 2, which is really cool, and it has knockoff. It just discards 2 tools from your opponent's active Pokemon, or it says to your opponent's Pokemon, but that might be a translation error. We don't really care. It's not a particularly useful attack. Shadow Slash, 3 dark energies, 180 damage. Discard an energy from this Pokemon. It's fine. If you're in a super pinch and all you have is the V and you need to hit something that's weak to dark, you'll take a knockout. But other than that, you should really never use the V. What we really want to use is the VStar. And again, 2 retreat cost, dark type, grass weak Pokemon, really, really good. And it has 270 health, and that's going to be a little bit important. We'll talk about why. Its attack, Merciless Blade, for just 2 dark energies does 110 damage. But if your opponent's active Pokemon has any damage counters on him, this attack does an additional 110 damage. Really, really good attack, because putting damage counters on your opponent's Pokemon is not particularly difficult. So you can hit it with a Zigzagoon Ping, you can hit it with a Quick Shooting Ping. I'm sure there's going to be different variations of Hisuian Samurott. We'll get back to it, but you can kind of remove some of this and make a an Inteleon build, which is absolutely something that I will probably tackle in the future. You get rid of the Bidoof, you get rid of the Crobat and Luminion, maybe some of these extra cards. You don't need as many of them because you can kind of cherry pick trainers with the Inteleon line, but that's not the point. This is a little bit more rotation proof since we're going to be nearing that point where rotation happens. So if you're trying to think forward a little bit, this might be the better build for that, and you'll be a little bit more familiar with it. Anyway, that's not really the point. The point is, it's really easy to put damage counters on stuff right now with Galarian Zigzagoon. Galarian Zigzagoon has an ability when you play it from your hand to the bench, you just put one damage counter on any of your opponent's Pokemon. So you can choose your opponent's active. Now it has 10 damage, you're hitting for 220, and oh, by the way, it already has damage counter on it, so now you're actually hitting total 230 damage, and that's enough to knock out pretty much any V that will see play. At the moment, at the time of this recording, there's some Zamazenta V's running around that has 230 health, so you could still KO that with Hisuian Samurott VStar's Merciless Blade attack. But if that's not enough for some reason, if you need to put a little bit more pressure on something, you can go ahead and use Zangetsu Star, which is Hisuian Samurott's V-Star power, and it just lets you put 4 damage counters onto one of your opponent's Pokemon. Very, very good ability. Again, we can pair this with Zigzagoon, and we can use something like Scoop Up Net, where we can pull that Zigzagoon from the bench, play it down again to reuse its ability. Because we have 2 Zigzagoons and 3 Scoop Up Nets, we can do this 5 times. And that's a lot. That's 5 damage counters plus the 4 damage counters. You know, you could put 9 damage counters onto one of your opponent's Pokemon before you go ahead and hit it with Merciless Blade. And that's quite a bit. You're unlikely to do that all in one turn, but theoretically it's possible. Some of the other cards that we have in this deck, and before actually we move on from there, that 110 is really important. 110, when you put a damage counter on it, 220, you're one-shotting things like Mew, which is really cool. You're going to be one-shotting things like Urshifu V at 220, which is another really important card. Arceus is another really important card. So there's a lot of things that are in that 210, 220 threshold that you are just going to be able to knock out very, very easily, and you can realistically do this as early as turn 2, honestly. So I really like that. We do run the new Radiant Greninja. I know it's a sparkling, that's just a translation thing, but the actual card will be called Radiant Greninja, and it has the Concealed Cards or Secret Asset ability, where once during your turn you may discard an energy card from your hand and then draw 2 cards. Very, very good consistency buff. Now, keep in mind, these Radiant cards, you can only have 1 Radiant card in your deck. We're going to get a couple. We're going to get Radiant Greninja and Radiant Holucha, and I don't know if Radiant Heatran's coming in Astral Radiance, but if it is, you can't have one of each. You can only have a single Radiant Pokemon total. So in this case, we don't necessarily need the Holucha because we're really looking to try to knock out Vs more than anything, but you could instead put a Holucha in there so that your attacks do more damage to Pokemon at V max, make it a little bit easier for you to KO them. Crobat V is going to be our draw support card, and then we also have Luminion V to find a supporter. Bibarel here with the hardworking fangs, or industrious incisors, as the actual card says, which still hate that ability name more, but either way, you can draw until you have 5 cards in your hand once per turn. You can do that for each Bibarel you have in play. We need the Bidoofs to evolve into the Bibarel, and then the rest of the cards are going to be trainers. And we'll kind of skip to the energies here. Energy cards are going to be kind of important because we need to power up our Samurott, and we also need some excess energies to discard with Greninja. So we have an energy surge here, and one of the reasons that I included energy surge instead of throwing an extra energy in there is because energy surge is the kind of card we can burn from our hand so that we can draw more with Bibarel. If you have 3 energies in hand, well, you can only play 1 per turn, but if you have 2 energies in hand and an energy surge, well, you can still play that energy surge and still attach, and you don't have to get an energy with the energy surge. So it's a way to kind of ensure or try to draw a little bit more with Bibarel. We talked about the scoop up net. It's mostly so that we can reuse Zigzagoon, but theoretically you can pull up the Greninja or the Bibarel, do something like that if you feel like your opponent's working towards like a Yoga Loop turn or something like that. They're quick shooting and then you think they're going to put that extra last 2 damage counters with Yoga Loop so they take an extra turn. You can go ahead and scoop up net something like a Bidoof that might be on the bench or that Zigzagoon, so that not only to use the ability again, but so that your opponent doesn't take 2 turns in a row, because that would, I mean, it wouldn't be good, would it? Dark Patch is a reprint that we haven't seen in a quite, I want to say 10 years, I think Eric from Rare Candy said 10 years it's been since Dark Patch was printed. So attach a Dark Energy from your discard pile to one of your benched Dark Pokemon. This is great for setting up other Samurotts. Theoretically, we could set up a Crobat V, which is really cool because if you wanted to go the route of Crobat V Max, you absolutely could. If you wanted to have a little higher of an attack cost Pokemon, the Stealth Poison is going to put a bunch of damage onto your opponent's active Pokemon so that you can then Merciless Blade them for quite a bit. It's also going to help you Dark Patch and Energy onto a Zigzagoon so that if you're, in case your opponent wants to boss it up, try to stall a turn, you can Dark Patch onto a benched Zigzagoon so that you can have that retreat option the following turn. Probably not going to happen. Most of them are going to go towards these Samurott so you can have consistent attackers. Quick Ball and Ultra Ball, discard cards from your hand to find a basic or just any Pokemon depending on which card you're playing. Choice Belt so that we can do a little bit more damage, and then Air Balloon for free retreat so we have a pivot or to get a Pokemon that's trapped in the active out easily. Before we talk about the supporters, we'll talk about the stadium. Gatejaw Bog is a great stadium choice for this. Why is it not showing? I guess it doesn't want to show, which is like a little annoying. But basically, it's a stadium that whenever a person plays a basic Pokemon from their hand to the bench, you put 2 damage counters on that Pokemon. And what does Merciless Blade do? Does more damage when Pokemon have damage counters on them. So this is a great thing. We don't really care about having damage counters on us, especially a lot of our basic Pokemon, because we would look to try to scoop up net them if we felt something was going to happen. But we really just want to be able to hit with Merciless Blade as hard as possible, as quickly and easily as possible. So Gatejaw Bog is a great stadium for that. And it's going to, they're going to come down in health, which means we don't have to hit those 330 thresholds anymore. Now we have to hit 310, 290, and that's a much more manageable number to hit than something like 330. The supporters we have are Roxanne. Roxanne is a really good supporter card. You may only play this card if your opponent has 3 or less prize cards remaining. So for half the game you can't use it, which is why you only see 1 in this deck. You don't want to run many of them just because, for half the game you can't do it, and then you kind of clog up your hand, and you either have to discard them, and it's just a whole thing. But both players shuffle their hand into the deck, you draw 6, and your opponent draws 2. Very, very good cards, going to be super useful. We do also have a couple of Marnies. We kind of balance out the number of Marnie and Roxanne that we play. Marnie has a very similar effect. Both of you shuffle your hand, put it to the bottom of the deck, and then the person who played Marnie draws 5, their opponent draws 4. It's very important to note that Roxanne shuffles your hand into the deck, and Marnie shuffles your hand and puts it to the bottom of the deck. If you shuffle your hand into your deck with Marnie, you will get a game loss. If you shuffle your hand, put it to the bottom of your deck, and then cut your deck or something like that, you will get a game loss. Do not do it. So I know we're playing 2 cards that have similar effects, but please make sure you follow the effects of those cards appropriately. Do it exactly what they say, and you won't have a problem, because I've seen this happen to people in tournaments. Someone cut their opponent's deck after they played Marnie out of habit, and they got a game loss, and you don't want that to be you. 3 Boss's Orders, 4 Professor's Research, it's our best and strongest draw support, and we skipped over it on purpose, 2 copies of Echoing Horn. Why do we have Echoing Horn? Well, we're constantly hitting for 220, 230, something like that, and the idea is to take a V knockout very early in the game, try to knock our opponents active V Pokemon or boss up a V Pokemon before it evolves, and then we can go ahead later, we can use Echoing Horn, boss up that Pokemon, hit it with Zigzagoon, hit it with the Zangetsu Star, and take another knockout, get those 4 prizes, and now we can just kind of pick off whatever's in the active, right? Whether we do 2 attacks onto a VMAX or something like that, because remember, we're going to be hitting for 110, and then the following turn 220, which is that magical 330 number that we really want to be hitting. So we're going to be 2-shotting Pokemon VMAXs very, very easily, and there you go, there's the game. Or you can, you know, knock out their Sobble at the beginning of the game, 2-shot a VMAX, and then Echoing Horn the V back into play, boss it up, KO. Very, very easy. 6 prizes. I do really like the inclusion, at least in theory, of Echoing Horn, though I haven't put it into practice yet. I am very excited to try out this deck. I do think it could be really quick, really solid, and similar to something like a Victini, but perhaps a little bit more consistent, and there you go. There's the whole deck. I think Hisuian Samurott will probably be, it might not be the most popular V-Star, but I think it's going to be a very good one, and I am not really looking forward to having to deal with it, especially with the decks that I like to play. I like to play fighting types, and this not being weak to fighting, and also not using special energy can be kind of problematic for me. Yes, you could get rid of a couple of dark energies here and put hiding dark energies and get rid of the air balloons, and you can, we talked about some other ways you can build this deck. This is just the one that I think might see the most success. Maybe not initially, people tend to kind of run to the Inteleon line, but I do think you will find just a fair amount of success and a very easy, consistent version with this build. So there you go, Hisuian Samurott. Let me know what your thoughts are on this deck in the comments. I definitely want to know, what would you change? What deck are you most excited for to come out of Astral Radiance? Again, huge thank you to Pokegear and JustInBasil for helping to make this video a little bit easier and, well, in the case of Pokegear, just possible at all, really. And yeah, that's gonna do it. If you enjoyed, I hope, I think I said that already, I hope you enjoyed, found it a little informative. If you did, subscribe, like, comment, consider checking out the link for Dragon Shield. Maybe become a member if you're so inclined. And yeah, that's gonna do it for us today. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you next time.